I'm finally getting around to shooting part 3 of the Swoon Maisie folding bag. Here it is. This is the pattern envelope. So yeah, hopefully we're going to get this done in this video. I'm not liking this camera angle. Let me try to fix it. Alright. It's hard because you need to be able to see see what I'm doing, which usually means that you're not going to see too much of my face, and well, it shouldn't matter, but some people care. Alright, so first let me get onto my YouTube page so I can see what's going on here. Here it is. Okay, here we go. So I've got my monitor right behind my camera here, so I can kind of see what's going on, and if anyone's tuning in live, I can answer questions and stuff. Alright, sorry, I thought I liked the way I had this tripod situated, but I do not. Okay, alright, well that's gonna have to do. So anyway, let's pick up where we left off. So we are on, we're making the lining at this point. So the next step was to fold under, these are the lining gussets, fold the straight edge under 1/2 inch and press. So I went ahead and did that off camera because that was one of those things that's kind of boring to watch, and if you're watching this, you probably know how to use an iron by now, so you don't need me to show you. Okay, so I did that, and then next is to pin one lining top panel, which is one of these, to a lining side panel, which is this, right sides together, matching the short end of the top panel, which is this, to the top straight edge of the side panel, which is this. Alright, and then the long curved edge should be matched up to the side. So basically this needs to be in the center because it's where your zipper is going to eventually go. Alright. And then the straight edges of the top panels should be in the center with about a 1/2 inch gap in between. So we're going to need some clips or pins to get all this in order. Grab my clips. Again, you can use pins if you want, but I guess I'm kind of klutzy because I tend to get stabbed pretty frequently when I work with pins, so I avoid them whenever I can. If I'm making doll clothes, I find that since they're so tiny, I end up having to use pins, but for bags, these work out pretty well. Oh, hi Jan. For those of you not following what's going on, Hurricane Dorian is about to hit Florida. My husband showed me the latest forecast, and we are on the west coast of Florida, and it appears to be heading up the east coast. So hopefully we'll get spared. Was it 2017? I think that was. Yeah, 2017 we had Hurricane Irma, and yeah, that was just kind of traumatic. That was my first like real hurricane since living here, because I'm originally from Wisconsin. Yeah, that was not. We had to evacuate. Luckily, I have some family in Georgia, but yeah, it was terrible. All right, so we got this, and now the next step is to sew along the top straight edge of the side panel at a 5/8 seam allowance. If you're wondering why it's 5/8 suddenly, because previously all the other seams were 1/2 inch. That is because when you make a bag lining, you don't want it to be all kind of bunched up and baggy or whatever inside the bag. That sounds weird, but yeah, so it tends to fit better if you use just a slightly larger seam allowance, so that's why. Now you can't use it everywhere, so I would just advise you whenever you're making a bag pattern, whether it's Swoon or something else, just follow the instructions, especially the first time you make it. Alright, so we are going to do this seam now. Alright, here we go. So I will show you what that looks like. It looks like this. And as you can see, I'm using a contrasting thread. And while it would be great to say I'm just doing this so you can see better, it's because I'm too lazy to change the thread color. Because if you recall, the rest of my bag is red, and then for the lining, I just kind of using random scraps I want to get rid of, so it's blue. So anyway, there you go. Okay. So, okay, so flip open, so all the panels are wrong side up, so, okay, good, you can see that. And press the seam allowances toward the side panel, so this way. All right, so let's do that. Yeah, Florida's kind of a trade-off because, you know, you have the hurricanes, but where I'm from, we had horrible blizzards every year, so it's like once in a while you get a hurricane, and then up north you get blizzards multiple times every single year, so I guess it's kind of a trade-off. So instead of snow days like I had as a kid, my kids down here, they get hurricane days. So, pretty wild. Alright, so I did that. Okay. And then flip the panels the right side up, which is this, and then top stitch along the seam about 1/8 of an inch from the seam through the side panel and seam allowance. So basically all this stuff, just 1/8 of an inch. Okay, here we go. So that's what this looks like. So then the next step is to do the same thing but with the other side panel. So I'll do that. Yeah, another interesting thing with hurricane preparation is that there's a thing called hurricane snacks. So they tell you to you know, stock up on all the usual important things, you know, like 7 days of food and water per person and all this kind of stuff. But of course, you know, if you're going to be homebound, you want to make the best of it. So a lot of people buy hurricane snacks, and then the big joke is, you know, that you're not going to eat them before the actual hurricane. So that's a thing. And then last night I was at our the grocery store down here. The dominant one is Publix. So I know they're not all over the country, and they're probably not outside of the country if you're watching from another country besides us. Yeah, so my husband and I went there just to get a few things, and saw a guy, his cart was filled with beer. So kind of got a chuckle out of that, and also kind of wondered if maybe he was originally from Wisconsin, because that is totally a Wisconsin thing to do. Okay, so same thing as before. I've got my 5/8 inch seam allowance, which I then need to press towards the side panel. Alright, and then we're doing that top stitching again. Okay, we are done with that. Okay, so then this is now called the lining gusset. Next page. We're moving right along here. Okay, so next is the lining pocket. So I'm going to set this aside because I need to be working with one of the side panels. Alright, so let me grab one of these. Okay. need to draw a little box on here. Okay, so it says to fold a lining main panel, which is this. Oh, there's cat hair on it. That's weird because I don't allow my cats out here. Matching all raw edges and press to make a vertical center crease. I don't like doing that because you just have to press it out later anyway. So I'm just gonna kind of measure. I usually do this over at my cutting table, but obviously if I do that here, you won't be able to see. Okay, so I'm gonna mark it. Everything has to be done on the wrong side, so this is obviously the wrong side. It's got the interfacing and everything. Let me just get my ruler real quick. Alright, so this is a ruler that is usually used for rotary cutting. So I'm going to use it for this. Okay. This is about 13.5 inches wide. So that's 6 3/4 would be half. Alright. So then there's a bunch of lines on here I'm going to use to make sure this line is straight, and just draw a little line. I think I've shown you these before. This is a Pilot friction pen. I have like a 6-pack of them in all different colors. They're not designed for sewing, but a lot of us use them for that because the marks disappear with heat. So I personally I don't use them for actual writing because if you left it in a hot car, it would just disappear. And in fact, one of the reviews on Amazon said something about that happening. Like they had their notes from class like written with this, and then suddenly it was gone. So that would be bad. Oh wait, I still need this ruler. So anyway, I use them for sewing. But of course, since they're not designed for that technically, before you use something like this, you want to make sure you test it to make sure it does come out so you don't have any unpleasant surprises. Okay, so now that we marked the center, we're going to need to mark a long, skinny, rectangular box. And that's where the zipper is going to eventually go. You'll see. Alright, so on the wrong side of the panel, mark a horizontal 7-inch by 1/2 inch box that is 6 inches up from the bottom straight edge, goes past the center crease by 3.5 inches on both sides. So yeah, I can see how that might trip people up because that's just all kinds of numbers and stuff. There is a diagram on here, so that helps. Alright, so we're gonna start with it being 6 inches from the bottom. So that's gonna be our starting point for marking this. Alright, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, yeah, this is 6 inches wide. Okay, so I've got that. This is where these gridded rulers come in really handy. Alright, so I am going to move it so it's on one of the measurement lines. Okay, so this is going to be where the bottom of that rectangle is going to be. Alright, so the box needs to be, that rectangle, 7 inches wide, which means it's 7 inches divided by 2 which means it's 3.5 inches from each side of the center marking. So I'm going to do that. 1, 2, 3.5. So that's right here. And yes, it's fine. Alright, I've drawn that line, and then the box needs to be 1/2 inch tall. So this clear ruler is really handy for this. Alright, 1/2 inch is right here. Okay, so I've got it centered over the 1/2 inch line, and I'm going to draw the second 7 inch line. So it's the same length. And then we have our little box here. All we need to do is draw the little sides, and then I'll show you this when it's done. So it's actually not too bad. Okay, so that's what we have. Alright. Alright, and we're going to be marking stuff later too, so keep your ruler and pen handy. Okay. Next we need the zipper pocket panel. So I got that here, and again I was just trying to use up scraps, so that's why it's a different fabric entirely. Actually, I need this pin. I'm going to keep it. All right, so on the right side of the lining main panel, pin a short edge of the zippered pocket panel over the rectangle you just drew. So it's kind of tricky because you're not seeing it. So I'm just going to stick it in the general area, right side down. So these two fabrics are right sides together. Alright, and then I'm going to flip it over because it says the edges of the pocket panel should go past the rectangle box by about 1 inch on the top right and left sides. Okay. So I flipped it over so I just can kind of eyeball it. And then on the sides. Okay. I'm going to move it down just a tiny bit if I can. Okay, then I'm going to pin this into place. That is a dull pin. I need to get rid of that. Okay, so here it is. It's all pinned together. That's what it looks like. All right. So flip over so you're looking at the wrong side of the lining main panel, which is this, and then sew right along that rectangle. Since we're eventually going to be clipping right to these corners, you want to use a smaller than normal stitch length. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm just using a 2.4, but you could do an even smaller one if you wanted to. All right. And we're going to back stitch. And just take your time to make sure that this the seam is accurate. If this is a really accurate seam, your eventual zipper pocket is going to look better. Having said that though, I mean, if it's not perfect, it is just going to be on the inside of the bag. So especially if you're a beginner, don't get discouraged if you can't get this perfect, because my early ones look pretty terrible, but you kind of have to just give yourself a little break if you're just starting out and put it in perspective. You know, you're not making this as a gift for the Queen of England or something, so it's really in the grand scheme of things, it's okay. It's not perfect. Okay, so here it is all sewn together. Now inside the stitched rectangle we need to mark lines as shown in the diagram. So basically we're drawing a line right in the center here, but we're stopping a 1/2 inch from each side, and then from that drawing a little triangle. So I'll show you what that looks like. Alright, so I'm getting out my ruler again, finding the 1/4 inch mark, because a 1/4 inch should be halfway in the center. And then here we go, and then a 1/2 inch is right there. Okay, and then I draw these little marks. I wonder if you can see. I hope you can see. If not, I'll show it to you when I'm done, and you'll see what I'm doing. Okay, so that's what it should look like. Now the next step is to cut along those lines, and that's a little nerve-wracking. If you have a rotary cutter, like a tiny one, you can cut most of the line that way. I think I'm going to do that because I have a really tiny cutting mat right here. There we go. Okay, so I'm going to do most of this with the rotary cutter. There we go. Okay, so I've got most of it cut. You can see you're cutting through the whole thing. So that might be a little stressful, but it'll be worth it. All right, and then I'm going to be cutting these little diagonal lines. You need to go really, really close to that stitching, but not clip through it. So take your time. This is when using a contrasting thread comes in handy because I can see it very well. Okay, that looks about as close as I can get. And then we're going to do it again over here. Okay, a couple more little threads. Okay, I think that's good. All right, so we've got it. This is what it looks like. And the next step, excuse me, is to pull this zippered pocket panel through the hole we just cut. So it feels kind of weird to do that because it kind of fights you. But we're gonna press this into submission with the iron next. And as long as we sewed accurately and trimmed accurately, it should be nice and flat. Okay, so this is what it looks like before pressing. So we're going to set this down. And then we need to press this all flat. So you kind of want to roll this between your fingers a little bit to get it flat. And then the goal is to not have this pocket fabric visible from the right side. So keep that in mind as you're pressing. I'm just doing one section at a time. Okay. Alright, so far it looks okay. I'm going to do the other side, or the top edge of this rectangle. Again, I'm just going to roll it a little bit to make it nice and flat, and press it again right there. Alright, and then after I do this, then I'm going to do the little half-inch sides of the box at the end. Whew, that's hot. Alright, see how it turned out. Alright, so I got a little bit of puckering here, but it's not too bad. I think it'll be okay in the end. Alright, so here you go. That's what it looks like. And this is where we're going to be sewing our zipper. Alright, so don't panic. Alright, yeah, we did the zipper on the last one, but that was with vinyl. This is with just, you know, cotton fabric, so this is going to be a lot easier. Alright, so we have our zipper. It needs to be 7 inches. I think this one's a little longer. Let me see. Yeah, this is a 10-inch zipper. So I'm going to unzip it just a little bit because the zipper pull needs to be within this box. And again, in case you haven't heard, yes, you can use a zipper that is longer than what's suggested because you can just cut off the excess and then you don't have to buy as many different sizes of zippers. Like if you want to buy them bulk, like from Zip It on Etsy, they're wonderful. They have like packs of 25, 50, etc. So you could just buy like a, say, 10-inch zipper, and then if you need 7 or 9-inch zippers, you can use that size for both of those situations. Okay, so anyway, for this you can use the fabric tack glue to hold it in place. Hopefully this stuff works properly. If you watch my previous videos, you know my struggles with this. When the bottle gets close to being empty, it just does not want to come out. Either that or it just like starts like running out of here, which is what it's doing now, so. But yeah. Alright, so I just grabbed paper out of the trash to wipe off the nozzle when I'm done and put the cap back on. There we go. Okay, so this is messy. Okay, so now I just put it along the long edges and a little bit on this one here, and then we need to center it. So I think what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna set it down right side up and then lay the fabric on top of it. I think I'm gonna get a more accurate result that way. And I apologize if you can't see this very well. I'm just a one camera operation here. I don't have like a second camera up above to show you another angle. That would be awesome, but that's not really gonna happen. I'm just one person sewing on a Saturday. Okay, so anyway, I got that. Let me just press it down a little bit. Okay, and then you can even kind of help it adhere a little better by going over it with the iron. Okay, and then just got a little bit of glue on my ironing board. These things always look junky. It doesn't matter how good a care you take of it, they always end up looking junky. Alright, so anyway, hopefully this isn't too blurry, it looks okay. But yeah, this is what we're working with here. And now we need to sew around this little box here. Alright, so it's telling us to sew 1/8 of an inch from the edge of the rectangle. So let's do that. I'm going to use a 2.8 stitch length. Alright. And then I'm using a walking foot, which works fine with zippers, but if you're using just a regular presser foot, you'll want to grab your zipper foot, which pretty much every machine comes with, even the inexpensive ones. Alright. Alright, let's do this. Don't forget to backstitch. Oops. Alright, getting my zipper pull out of the way here. And continue. Ugh, I got glue on the bed of my machine. Alright. That's fun. I think I added too much glue. Okay, I will show you how I did. It's not perfect, so. But eventually it will be. Just gotta keep practicing. Alright, so let me show you. Yeah, the start and stop, you can see I have a little gap here in my stitching, and my back stitch look kind of weird. Alright, that's okay. I'm showing it just to encourage you if you're a beginner that it's okay if things are not perfect, because you gain experience and practice, and plus, as we all know, people who don't sew at all think that pretty much anything you do with a sewing machine is completely magical and you are some kind of like magician or superhero because you did something on a sewing machine. So just keep that in mind, you know, don't be too hard on yourself. All right, so this is good enough for me. Finish is better than perfect, right? All right, so let's move on. Let's see what the next step is. Okay. Yes, we have to make this pocket into an actual pocket. So we do that by folding it up to meet the other short edge up here. And then we can press this little fold flat. There we go. Okay, isn't that pretty? All right, and then what we want to do is we want to pin this pocket, but we need to keep the this main panel completely out of this whole operation, because this pocket needs to hang free and not be attached to that side. So let me get my pins here. All right. Get one more. Okay, and then here's the little top edge of the pocket. Okay, got that. Now we need to sew a 1/2 inch seam allowance around these 3 sides. Obviously we don't need to sew this one because it's already attached. All right, so I'm gonna start at one end and just go to the other. Almost done. And don't forget the back stitch. Okay, we've got it sewn. All right, here's what it looks like now. And as you can see, since my zipper is a little longer, it's sticking out here. And actually, I kind of think it's an advantage to have the zipper be a little longer, because you can see that there's these little metal end pieces on each end of it. If the zipper is a little longer, those are going to be far out of the way of your stitching, so there's no chance of you accidentally stitching and having your needle hit one of these metal pieces. So I think it's a good thing. So I'm going to go ahead and just trim these off. Since the zipper is completely installed, I no longer need those there. All right, isn't that cool? So now when we unzip the pocket, or unzip the zipper, there's our pocket. Very cool. I like it. It matches the outside fabric, so. All right, and then it says to trim the seam allowances down to about 1/4 inch. And I gotta grab my my bigger scissors. Forgot that I might need these. These are Kai brand, K-A-I. I bought mine on Amazon. There's probably all kinds of places you can get them. If you have a local quilt shop, they might sell them there. You can ask. But I really like these. I used to use Ginger scissors for probably about 15 years. And I don't know, I like these a lot better. I just feel like they work better, they're quieter, and this handle, it's like plastic coated. It's a lot more comfortable in my hand. But I still have my Gingers, they're just right over here. So if I have to take these in for sharpening, I got the Ginger as a backup. And my mom really likes these too. She's quite frugal and does not like to buy anything that, like, basically, like, whatever she buys, she likes to buy the cheapest option. So she was just using, like, not even Fiskars, but like some Westcott brand, something like that, like the bargain basement sewing shears she was using. And once in a while she'd treat herself to a Fiskars if they're on sale. So I bought her one of these. I think it was for Mother's Day, and she really likes it a lot. I got hers with a blue handle in case we ever sew together and then they won't get mixed up. And then it also has, this one at least did, this little snap-on sheath thing so you don't accidentally injure yourself. So anyway, I really like these. I think they're only like 15 bucks on Amazon. They're pretty cheap. And actually, that reminds me, in the description box under this video, I do have a link to like my Amazon store, I guess. Basically just a bunch of links to products on Amazon that I personally use and like a lot. And I'm quite sure, I'm almost positive I added those to it. So if you want to find them, you can. And it is an affiliate link, but that just means I get a little commission, like a referral fee, but it doesn't change the price of the product, and I don't get any information. Like, they don't tell me, oh, hey, Mary bought this scissors or whatever. It doesn't give me any information like that. So that's how affiliate links work. Sometimes people get a little touchy about them, but it's really not a big deal. It's just like another way for like bloggers or YouTubers to earn income, which helps them make more videos. Okay, anyway, bottom panels. Alright, so this is the bottom panel. I think, or no, we're working on the outside. Yeah, exterior, never mind. So we're going to set all this aside. But first, this isn't in the instructions, but I like putting a little label inside of my my projects. This one just says one of a kind. These are from Kylie and the Machines. It's an Australian company, but oh, I'm trying to think of what okay. It's some fabric website that's really good, and I can't remember the name of it. But anyway, if you Google them, you can find companies in the U.S. that sell these, so then you don't have to worry about Australia postage. So to sew this on, I'm just eyeballing it. I mean, if you really are particular, you can certainly measure it to make sure it's perfectly centered, but it's inside the bag. I am not selling this bag. I actually don't even know what I'm going to do with it when I'm done with it. It's just I make these because it's really enjoyable, and I don't really think too much about where it's going after it's done. So anyway, I'm just sewing it on the sides here. But a lot of companies make these types of labels, so you can order personalized ones. There was a company, I think she's called Jennifer's Jewels, or I think she might have changed her company name recently. I've ordered personalized ones from her, like with my business logo. Those were good. And then also, there's an Etsy shop called Night Owl's Menagerie. They sell these really cute, like kind of whimsical ones with little animals, and they say like mama made or one of a kind and handmade and stuff like that. Those are so cute. I have quite a few of those also. This is a little crooked, but I won't tell if you want. Okay, so let's go get our exterior pieces. Here we go. So here's our exterior. Okay. So we're going to pin the exterior main panel, one of the exterior main panels right here, to the contrasting bottom panel, matching the bottom straight edge of the main panel to a long edge of the bottom panel. This is the bottom straight edge of the main panel to a long edge of the bottom panel, this. So we're going to clip those two together. I think I'll put the bottom panel on the top. Doesn't specify, so I'll go with that. Alright, so this is, again, we're back to sewing with vinyl, which is a little difficult. And again, if you are working on an inexpensive machine, like one of the Brother machines, it's like 80 bucks at Walmart. That's a good one to, if you're just starting out. It's like if you have a small budget, or you're just not sure if sewing is good for you. I sewed on a machine like that for many years. One of my daughters was interested in sewing for a while, so I bought her one of those for her birthday. Unfortunately, it's just sitting in the storage bag that I made for it, and she doesn't sew, but that's all right. We gotta be okay with whatever our kids decide to be interested in, as long as it's appropriate. Okay, so this needs to be sewn at a 1/2 inch seam allowance, so I'm going to do that. Alright, I did remember to put the leather needle in my machine, so it's a larger size needle, so hopefully my stitches are coming out okay. Huh, that looks pretty decent. Okay, so I've done that. Flip so both panels are wrong side up, and press the seam allowance toward the bottom panel. And again, if you watch the previous videos, you know that this is vinyl, so we cannot press it because it will melt and destroy our iron. So I am going to just kind of finger press it, but first I'm going to trim off some of this seam allowance so I have a little bit less vinyl to sew through when I do the top stitching. Alright, the top stitching, it looks really nice and it makes things lie properly and everything, but there are situations where if your machine is just not having it, that sometimes you can skip it. Alright, so anyhow, this seam allowance just goes toward the bottom, and then we need to stitch through that. Alright, let me get these clips out of the way. Alright, and I'm going to be skipping to a 3.5 stitch length. Maybe I should do 4. Yeah, I'm going to do 4. Alright, and then as I sew this, I'm just kind of feeling underneath here to make sure my seam allowance is flipped toward the bottom. And it's already fighting me. There we go. Usually a walking foot helps it kind of glide across fabrics like vinyl. I do suspect though that it's giving me trouble just because of the humidity. Because again, I'm in Florida, it's the end of August in the middle of hurricane season, so things are really humid. Especially because I am sewing on, I guess there's a lot of names for it. I call it a sun porch, where it's not considered part of the interior of the house, so it has its own window air conditioning unit to make it possible to be out here without passing out from heat exhaustion. So it's kind of like it's not, I guess it's sort of indoors, but the walls of this thing are, I guess, like aluminum and vinyl or something. There's no insulation or anything. So it probably wasn't designed for what I'm using it for, but we just, we make do with what we have, and most of the time it's really nice out here. I like it. And it's nice to have a space that is separate from the rest of the living area, because then no one else is coming out here and moving stuff around or borrowing things. So it's my own space, and then my cats can't get out here and sit on things, get their hair everywhere, or chew stuff, and all the things that cats do. Alright, so yeah, okay, so we've done that, did the top stitching. Okay, repeat to sew the remaining exterior main panel to the other long edge of the same bottom panel, then top stitch and trim. Okay, here's the other one. Alright, flip this over, clip it together, and sew it just like I did last time. So yeah, when we were looking for a bigger house, I have 3 teenage girls, and they all have extremely different personalities, and we had a 3-bedroom house, which meant 2 of them had to share. There was just no combination, no configuration that was gonna make it so they could live together harmoniously. So yeah, plus I didn't like the particular location of that house. So anyway, we were looking for a new house. I needed a place where I could have my own working space, and this was perfect because the house was still affordable, but I still had my own space, and I don't care if it's fancy looking or not, so it's perfect. Okay, 1/2 inch seam allowance. Oops, I'm going to change my stitch length. All right. Oops. Okay, so just like before, oops, I'm going to trim off some of the excess, some of the seam allowance on the bottom side of the vinyl, so I can reduce bulk. So I think I'm trimming it down between 1/4 and 1/8 of an inch, just that one piece, not the whole seam allowance. There we go. So I trimmed off that much, and now opening it back up again and just kind of finger pressing it a little bit. Okay, then here's what we got now. I feel like we're getting very close to being done, but I don't think I'm gonna get it done in this video, because otherwise it's just gonna run too long, and then my battery will run out like it did last time. And so yeah, by the way, sorry about that if you watched the last video and I just kind of ended rather abruptly. That's because my battery ran out, and I was not expecting that to happen. Okay, stitch length and top stitch. Yay, done. Alright, so there we have it. So we fold all this up and it's starting to look like a bag. How exciting. Okay, so the step, we're going to do the same thing but with the lining panels. So I'm going to throw this over here. And then I think we're going to probably stop after this step just so the video's not quite as long. Okay, this is going to look wacky because my bottom lining is one fabric and the main ones are another fabric, but that's alright. When you're making it yourself, you can decide what you want to do and how. And I wanted to use up stashed fabric that I've had for like 15 years. Okay, so I'm just going to put a couple clips in here to keep it aligned properly. And again, since this is the lining, instead of the 1/2 inch seam allowance we did on the exterior, we're doing a 5/8 seam allowance. So, adjusting my stitch length. Don't forget to back stitch. Okay, so we've got that, and it said repeat the entire step, which includes the top stitching and everything. So this time, since this is cotton, we can press the seam allowance toward the bottom panel, like the instructions say. Okay, there we go. And I'm going to top stitch that. If you wanted to, you could sew both of the main panels to the bottom and then do the top stitching all at once at the end. Yeah, it really doesn't matter either way. Okay, so there we go. And then we're trimming the seam allowance past the top stitching, which again was a little different than how I treated the vinyl. Alright, I'm going to fold it over like this so I make sure I'm not catching the bottom panel when I'm trimming off the seam allowance. Alright, and here's what it looks like on the back, and then on the right side with the little stray threads. Alright, then we're doing the same thing on the other side. I'm just going to sew it without the clips. Looking good. Okay, again, we're going to press the seam allowance toward the bottom. And then top stitch it. So lengthening our stitch to 4 and top stitching 1/8 of an inch from the seam. And I totally eyeballed that one because it's in the inside of the bag, and if it's a little more than 1/8 of an inch, it really doesn't matter. At least to me it doesn't. Okay. So here's what we have. Kind of the same as the outside. And now let's see what the next step is. Oh gosh, assembly. Okay, let me see how close we are to the end here. Oh, we're very close. Alright, we have straps to make and then the main assembly. So, it's not many steps that are left, but these are the ones that are going to be kind of time consuming. So, I think I'm going to end it for now. I'll give you a preview though. And hopefully I can do the final video next week. My busy time of year for my business is coming up, so hopefully it won't pick up before next week. So yeah, so here are the sides, here's the top, and this is what's going to be happening in next week's video. Let me turn around this way. Here, I'm going to do it right sides out so you can kind of get a better feel for it. So yeah. So you can kind of see the bag taking shape here. We've got the piping around here. And then we're going to be doing the same thing with the lining. And then, like I said, we need to sew the handles. And then I believe there is a shoulder strap for this. Yeah, there's a shoulder strap because here are the D-rings for it. So we'll have those steps and then it'll be done. So. Alright, well, thanks for watching. Hope this was helpful to you. Leave any comments below, questions, whatever. Alright, and enjoy yourself. Happy sewing!